outside. It's packed.
All right, Leather Goddess, give me a break. I'm only late lately because of technical difficulties. That hurts. It hurts. It really hurts. Hit that like right away. Let people know we're here. Oh, because it's a big show. This morning, we got some fun today. Trust me, I'll give you a good show.
He can do things with his tongue you wouldn't believe it.
You don't have to. Thanks for noticing. That's true. Today's episode is brought to you by Lumpy Pillows.
Lumpy Pillows kiss my ass.
Oh, all right.
Don't touch my hands because they're dirty.
I'm not touching any part of you.
China don't buy. None of you buy. PP2.
I agree. I'm a dope.
Oh, yeah, that's normal.
Oh, we're getting close. Hit that like. Oh, yes. All right, getting close. Come on now. We got a special guest this morning. I don't want to tell you who she is, but...
no, she's crazy. She is totally nuts.
All right, that's your opinion.
De-engineering.
That's what happened to my setup. Okay. We're getting so close. Why were you late?
I had a beat off.
All right, I don't know if that's a reason. Where?
In his sock drawer.
That's a weird... I don't know why. I hope you didn't, like, videotape that or something.
Action replays in magnified portion.
Well, that's good, since that doesn't exist. That's fine. What'd you do afterward?
Dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
All right. I guess so. All right, here we are. 3, 2, 1. I hit this and it works. Ah, yes, look at that. Welcome, everyone. Welcome those at home and across the globe to Houseparks Megaworldwide. It's Wednesday, and like the song says, I drive all night just to get back home. So I rolled in this morning at about 7 a.m. I had 3 stops for largely for like, because it was I got because you don't want to get sleepy. That was a big part of it. But also, if I may, I'm going to shrink myself down on this other screen. I don't know why I'm so big. Because it was snowing, for fuck's sake, in the desert, in the California desert, between here and LA, snow everywhere. I have pictures. I will post them later on. Oh my gosh, Poo Picker Upper, thank you. It got me to 64K. We cleared 64K today of actual people. Isn't that funny? And I guess that's how you end up with, I got 64,000 subscribers, and I've got the same viewership as some of these people with 1 million subscribers. Yeah, I have 11 million watch hours in the last 2 years. Thank you. Thank you for your eyeballs. Yeah, amazing. Also, special guest this morning, JoJo from Jersey is going to be here. Very exciting. She'll be popping in the wings in a minute. She's going to be with us at the quarter hour through the rest of the hour, and then Phil will be with us for the second hour today. Lots going on. Very exciting. Oh yeah, we're moving on up. Thank you, Andrea, for setting that up. Yesterday, and I just want to address this right out of the gate. Let's say hi, chat room. Hello, there you are. Hi. I know, 65K. What are you gonna do? And the show last night was fantastic. I'll show you how, these are a little, see this? I'm still wearing show pants. I just rolled straight in. I haven't even had a chance to shower or anything. I'm gonna be, after this morning show, I'm gonna collapse. But anyways, so I'm wearing sexy rocker pants. Just get used to the idea. Hype train. I think I got the hype train just for that. That's my guess. Anyways, so hi chat room. Welcome. Rep Al Green is a hero. Excellent. All right. Red velvet. Yes. My pants taste like red velvet cake. And there's only 3 ways to find out. What? Yeah. So anyways, after the show, I'm going to, I'm just going to I'm going to meme fall over and just collapse. But I'm very excited today because we got great guests and a great show. And we had a great day yesterday. I'm sorry I wasn't live for it, but in many ways, I hope people got to watch on C-SPAN and other places this hilarity. Oh boy. Boy, that was a good time. That was super fun. So if you didn't know, not only did the Mayorkas impeachment go down in fucking flames, but so did their separate Israel-only funding bill that would have, basically tried to gut the passage of the border bill. And too many Republicans want the border bill to actually pass because they do want. You remember when Chip Roy was complaining that he was so mad that, and by the way, we got to get Texas Paul back on because I watched one of his border videos yesterday, and I feel like we have to just have a yelling session, he and I. And we'll do that very, very soon. We love you, Texas. We love us some Texas Paul, I will say. So the Mayorkas thing wasn't going to happen anyways. I mean, it's fucking dead. Even if it passed the House, the Senate's not even going to bring it up. It's just dumb. It's such a fucking waste of time. But you know why they're doing it? Because the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden impeachment shit has just gone down the crapper and is boring everyone to tears, and right-wing media is mad at James Comer because he keeps coming on and keeps promising the gun, it is smoking, and then he brings in a water pistol that's full of mayonnaise and he shoots it in his own face on live television. And while it's amusing for us, it makes for a lot of right-wing flop sweat. So I'm very excited. There's going to be more to that demise. They've got a couple other people they're going to bring in as witnesses. They're going to just shit a hole in that bag anyways, and I'm very excited about that. But it's because of that they had to move forward with this Mayorkas thing, because they were like, okay, border, very big. If we could impeach Mayorkas, we could kind of get the word impeachment associated with Biden White House and get our people off our back, essentially. Because right now, let's be abundantly clear. Whatever Republicans are still attached to the party in any relatively normal way are pissed. Half of them are pissed because they're not accomplishing anything and they're just signing up to shit the bed. And then the other half are mad because they've been promised this kind of magical wonderland where Trump will be reinstated and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are going to go to jail and all this horse shit. And neither group is getting anything. It's the laundromats. It's the laundromats. It's so clean. It's the laundromats. By the way, I keep doing that, and it's a line from Deep Cover. Just in case you haven't watched that movie, you kind of have to. It's the laundromats, and it's a line that Jeff Goldblum says to Lawrence Fishburne, and it's great. And the two of them together are fantastic, and it's wonderful and sad and great, and it's a good movie. And I think NWA did the soundtrack for it. It was their first soundtrack and perhaps their last. But I love that fucking movie, and I love the street poetry in it, and that's all I'm gonna say. It's the laundromats. It's the So it's called Deep Cover. It's super good. Just trust me. Deep Cover. Just gonna leave it at that. All right. That said, hi, hello, how are you? All right, and anyways, this part I just love. So Mayorkas, no, and then the bill on the Israeli funding separate, Israel funding separated from everything else. Now, why is this kind of a big deal? Why I mean, you bring something to the floor, even if you have power, man, people don't necessarily get everything they want when they're putting stuff in. I'll tell you why. And I think this is just a day ago, this is, remember when I told you, like, once they got, like, their slim majority, it was just going to shrink and shrink and shrink. And it's actually possible that they could lose their majority before the election at this rate. If Gates goes down and Scalise can't come back, bless his heart, hope he does well. He's getting stem cell therapy. He'll be back in February. He'll be able to vote on stuff again, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he would vote against the border bill anyways, which is hilarious. So I don't know that they could count on him. They're just pretending he's a pocket vote. Thank you for tweeting out the stream. And by the way, hit the like early. Like I said, it lets people know we're here. Let them know you're there. Which is a slap shot line. Bleed on them. Let them know you're there. So I find this so exciting. This is a political article. The incredible shrinking House majority. Do the math. It starts. Republican-led House plans to vote on impeaching Department of Homeland. We already know how that went. It's uncertain if they have enough votes. They didn't. Republicans argue that America's blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter because they failed. The looming situation is putting a spotlight on the precarious state of the Republican majority. The current math of the House is a key reason for the uncertainty over whether they have the votes. They don't. Johnson's Republican majority isn't just thin. It's one of the slimmest margins in congressional history. What was that? Was that red wave shit we were all hearing? I'm just saying, oh, she's in the background. I see her hanging out. I see JoJo from Jers in the background. And I think she can hear me. And I think at some point I will be able to hear her, and I will bring her in, and it'll be fantastic. And she'll let me know if she can hear me. Oh, there I do. I hear her moving around. JoJo, can you hear me? Maybe not. Not yet. Maybe not. Oh, there you go. Now she heard me. Hey, look at that.
Now, sorry.
Hi, that's okay.
Like,
It's all computer stuff. I get it. Hold on one second. I'm gonna throw you into the scene. Just bring you straight in. Give me one second. And we'll get right at it because there's so much to cover. And we've got a lot of catching up to do. Also, there she is. Look at that. Hey, hi. Wonderful. Welcome to the show. There she is. She's beautiful. Also, just for the record, I just want to say hi because I've had a big crush on you for a long time. My name's Ficus, and Hal doesn't let me talk to guests very much often, but I just think you do that Debbie Sue character or whoever she is. I just don't care. If you'd wear a gingham dress and I'd buy you some whorehound candy and take you to the Sadie Hawkins dance and I'd ask you first. I'd do it. I'd bring you in. I'd hook up the wagon and get you down there. I'm just saying, I gotta do it. All right, sorry, I gotta.
oh my God.
Feek?
She's jealous because you have a lot more teeth than she does naturally. So she real jealous.
Well,
like
I
that.
have been able for a long time. I floss with a crowbar. You know how some people use them toothpick things that have the little string on them? I wired me up a piece of bass guitar string across that. I'm the only person who can walk up to a tub base. You know, when somebody sticks a broom handle in a wash tub and boom, 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 boom. I can just rub my face on that and then floss. It's a good time. I'm just leaving it up. It is. It's a good time. All right. Sorry. We get serious about having fun. But everybody was talking to the chat about how much you and like Fekus need to get together on some level. We'll have to do some sort of co-video at some point. We'll arrange for that maybe.
Sign me up, 1,000%. Becky Sue is definitely on board.
Yes, I think like the Becky Sue at the Sadie Hawkins dance. I honest to God, I will build an entire virtual background for the two of us. It'll happen. So first of all, hi, welcome to the show. At JoJo from Jers, everybody. Link tree, JoJo from Jers is how you get to all of her links and stuff, her Patreon and all that kind of stuff. So just click on that and they're all there, which is great. She's such a pro. She's such a pro. She's got, yes, wonderful. I don't know why she turns me into Jiminy Glick, but I noticed today that you one of your tweets was about it's Wednesday because today's the day supposedly when Trump has to respond in court to Engoron, and I don't think he's gonna.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to keep track of all of these. If it's a day ending in Y, it's like there's some kind of either ruling or verdict or some kind of judgment against him.
Right.
It's like, I mean, it's incredible. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it's and for those that don't know, Engoron basically was all set to kind of. It looked like he was all set to give him like what people thought would be the $270 million that were kind of waiting in the wings. This is the ill-gotten gains ever since he's been frauding. But then when he lied on the stand, and Engoron made a reference to that, I want to say yesterday, that everybody was like, oh shit, now we're talking $1 billion. You know what I mean? Like now we're talking
like depending on which Trump you get, he's either much richer than we think, or he's just a politician and they can't possibly take this much money from him. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, because that's going to be a very expensive month for him.
Holy shit. Well, obviously he will appeal it right away. And unlike the E. Jean Carroll civil verdict, he will not have to put that money in escrow or whatever. But they're going to actually I guess in theory, take possession of his buildings until such time as he either pays it or is found, he wins an appeal, which I can't see happening. Fuck, he's just filling his diaper with soup right now, just every time the TV comes on.
I just want them to, if they do that, if they take over his buildings, can they please troll him by naming them after like E. Jean Carroll?
Oh, yeah.
District names.
Oh,
the Fonnie Willis Tower.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Engoron Suites.
Amazing.
So good. And the weird thing is, I think the worst part for him is not even that they'll strip his name off the building and stuff, is that he'll lose the rent from the Chinese Communist Party and the mob and the Russians and like every floor of that fucking place. I mean, they had like a money laundering and human trafficking thing the Russians were running out of like 2 floors below his fucking apartment in Trump Tower.
It's like the America's Mall of corruption.
Right.
Every floor is like a different experience.
This place goes on forever. Oh my God. Just pushing a cart going.
Russian wing?
Look at this. They got money laundering. This is fantastic. They got human trafficking and drugs. Oh my God. This is oh my God. Insurance fraud. I thought they were out. Just like a huge cart of criminality. Just, I always get the busted wheel.
Insurance fraud's back in stock.
It is. It was out of stock for a while because of like what was that woman who had the blood reader that everybody went after, who created the fake company, or whatever. Anyways, not important. Yeah. So, anyways, yesterday the big loss obviously was hilarious. Mike Johnson losing on the $17 million separate package for Israel, and losing the Mayorkas impeachment, which was never going to fucking go anywhere in the Senate, but whatever. Thoughts? Any rags? Any bones? Any rags today? Because
my favorite part of all of that is like somebody said, can you really blame them? Marjorie was using her toes to count, but like they actually blamed it. They blamed it on a hidden Democrat. Like some guy wheeled in, like being in the hospital in March, like somebody showed up and wasn't supposed to be there. And then we done had to count him. And then there it goes. I mean, they can't even get their own fake impeachments right. Like, this is how ridiculous they are.
Yeah. Well, the odd thing is it shouldn't matter. You have the majority. You talk, they talk about nothing else. And you come to you bring this shit to the floor and you don't have the votes.
It's embarrassing, truly embarrassing.
And Marge's flip out yesterday, you know, and she's like, we're going to try it again. We're going to get a do-over.
Did you hear her say, y'all don't know what an insurrection is? If you think all those National Guard that were here for the inauguration wasn't an insurrection, it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
That's an insurrection. Yeah. Sure.
Well, and also, you know, she is correct. It wasn't an insurrection. It was a failed insurrection. It's one thing to actually have one, but they're a bunch of fuck ups. So it was never going to amount to a hill of beans. Like, again, I've always said we got to count our blessings, and everybody in charge of that was just an idiot. You know, and like I've been watching. I know you've been watching. Like, Trump is on a serious hard fade right now. Agreed? Different than what we've seen before. Different than just like him just being kind of stupid and annoying and full of shit and whatever. Yeah. But god damn.
Oh shit. And I think now the Adderall can't keep up. I think the Adderall used to keep him at least like higher functioning and higher energy. And now the Adderall's like, I'm sorry, we're tapping out. Like, we can't. This is just too much. And he's like, Nikki Haley. Somebody said Junior said he should give this speech at the Super Bowl. I don't even know what that is, or an interview. And I was like, well, he'll say Nikki Haley is the Chiefs quarterback. The guy's he's lost it.
Yeah, and by the way, I think it's the Provigil. I think Junior talked him into taking Provigil. Now, Provigil is the drug. There's different versions of it. Modafinil is the root version of it. It's the reason I know about it is because it was the drug the limit kind of loosely based on, and it's one of the big smart drugs that like Silicon Valley and a lot of like Yale and Harvard and MIT students. There's Nuvigil, Provigil, and modafinil and armodafinil. And they're all the same thing, just different dosages. And they had like thousands of those fucking pills coming through the pharmacy at the White House for the first time ever. Like, Ambien's been around. We had a couple of Dr. Feelgoods before that were knocking people out for long flights with Ambien, which makes you fucking psychotic if you misuse it, right? And that's when George H.W. Bush was on Haldol, which I, luckily because of my name, got a couple of good stand-up jokes out of at the time, which is just,
Perfect.
My buddy Chris said Haldol sounds like a doll with a string on it. You pull it and goes, I'm Al Sparks and I'm mad. Because that used to be my act. But yeah, Provigil, I guarantee that was for Junior and Eric and Stephen Miller and all those motherfuckers. They were just banging that shit all day long. And they probably talked him off the Adderall into Provigil. Amber Heard was on Provigil. She was on another variation of it. And it was her assistant that was saying, that's why she was fucking nuts and throwing shit all the time.
And like leaving shit on the bed was because of Provigil?
Yeah, right. Well, maybe, and look, Trump has the hookers pee on the bed, allegedly. She takes a dump on the bed. Maybe it's a side effect.
Side effects may include.
It's a contraindication. Oddly controlled bowel movements in inopportune situations.
You may find yourself shitting on a random bed.
Right. He has. Oh God. He over the last fucking couple of months, obviously he lost a step I think he's one of the weirdest people because he didn't seem to age much during the presidency. He basically looked kind of the same, kind of shitty and orange and leathery. He looked like a basketball that somebody had squeezed I got to pack this in my suitcase, so I got to let the air out of it. And, it looks like a face. And but since he left office, he's been aging like everybody else ages in office.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. He doesn't even have to fake the octo neck thing he used to do to smile and make it look like it didn't have, the neck fupa that he had. So he used to do the octo neck. He doesn't even have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
His skin is just stopped.
Yeah. His nunt, I call it. Sorry.
That's much better than neck fupa. It's so much faster.
It gets right to it. You know what I mean? He's just got and they can't and he tries to do Mussolini head to try and extend it and draw it out so you can't really see it, but it just stays like he's and I have my theories about him either being on Ozempic or just he hasn't eaten.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he said he looked like Elvis, and it's starting to feel like his life is mirroring the end of Elvis's.
Right.
Where he wasn't bathing. He was just like,
I just need some more benzos and a little bit of cocaine. I can do another show, Colonel. Just get me up all done. And so my buddy Chris used to have this Chris Bono Appreciation Day, but he used to do this bit. And so the end is near, and now I face the shower curtain, and I was like, oh, fuck me. But he's Smelvis. Oh boy. So yeah, and I like the timing on it is so bad. Like it's like when he made the Thanos picture of himself. Remember when he showed the picture of himself as Thanos, the greatest, most genocidal fictional character in the history of cinema, period. Right. And what video did he use? He used the snap that didn't work.
Oh Jesus! Of course he did.
It was the shot from Endgame where he goes tank and nothing happens, and I'm like, you dumb motherfuckers!
You can't even get this right.
Can't even do it.
It's like the time Meghan McCain used like the Game of Thrones like GIF. What's her name? Burning down everything.
Right.
As if it was a good thing. It was like, what are you thinking?
Right. Yeah. I don't know what side, like, their idea of what's cool. And maybe do you think it's because they're chasing Dark Brandon? Because I really think that started out as kind of a goofy meme. They thought we took it way too seriously because they believe he's the Messiah, right? So they think we really, like, dove into that for his reason. But I just think it had great meme qualities. It was just like it's hilarious, right?
Well, what I think is so brilliant about it is it's taking their stupidity, turning it on its head and turning it against them. And they're like, wait, what do we do with this? Wait, that's not our thing. The dark, like, let's go Brandon isn't our thing. They turned it into something cool, and they just, their brains can't.
We want laser eyes, right? Yeah. It's such a dipshit, and Trump seemed mad about it for a while, which is why, by the way, I created this just so that anytime I can, if we have to deal with it. But I'm curious on your take on this because, and by the way, I want to remind everybody if you don't follow, and you probably do, follow JoJo from Jersey. She's still on Shitter, and you're on Threads too.
Yeah,
threads in there and
weird light that looks like I'm wearing a sash. I don't know. It's
moving. It's you have blinds.
Yeah,
and those are the holes where the string is threaded through them. Yeah. I know. But it looks like you've just like Chewbacca just hung an award around your neck.
I wish I could do a Chewbacca right now.
Yeah.
There it is. They're perfect.
Yeah.
That's my favorite scene, by the way, when they get the medals. That's the best.
Oh, it's single
Is
tear.
Leia ever hotter than she is in that moment? I don't know.
Good. Well, I mean, arguably, Jabba's slave outfit. I mean, honestly, sexual turning point, if that's not TMI, for a young, what was it, 12, 13-year-old Hal. I'm like,
Same for me. Like, full disclosure, and I don't identify as a lesbian, but like, I mean, let's be real. Who wasn't 12 and was like, that's what's happening down there.
Oh yeah, and if you think she's gorgeous in that outfit, you should see her in The Man with One Red Shoe. That's my 80s moment for the show.
That is a deep pull right there.
It's what I do. It's what I'm known for.
That's amazing.
Right. So the other story, I guess, the big one is Ronna McDaniel. Yeah. Getting jettisoned. Right. She's officially gone, right? I was busy rocking during all this nonsense and I felt so good, but yeah.
Trump said, to speak of snapping, he said she should go because, of course, why wouldn't they lay all the blame for their continued failure at one woman's feet when they're voluntarily tethered to that guy? So he said she should go. She went. Now they're saying either him or Mike Lindell is going to take over.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Please. Okay,
right.
First of all, they said today, I think on his Truth Social or whatever, that basically he runs the RNC. So basically he's in charge of it no matter who runs it. I'm like, oh, well then all they're dead is your fucking fault. And it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And the RNC is broke too. And Trump is broke. And Lindell is broke. This is great. Brilliant. I love it. Great strategy.
Oh. I forget which woman it was. It was like one of the women who's, she was crying for Lindell a little bit ago. Like, he's such an American and he's been through all this and he gives everything for this country. I'm like, okay, first of all, fucko, you are crying because you are going to jail because you were on his plane when he flew Tina Peterson or whatever the fuck her name is out of Colorado, knowing full well that there was a warrant for her. That's his big problem right now that they're unpacking. That's why the FBI took his phone at the Hardee's a long time ago. That's what that was about. He fucking flew her out of the state. And the question is, did he know she had a warrant at the time? Well, he might not have because he's fucking stupid. But that other woman that was with her abso-fucking-lutely no. And she was the woman who was crying at that event. She was former Newsmax or TV host or something like that that was running for office for a short time, whatever, that was friends with that lady. I
don't remember her. I mix all those Newsmax OAN.
Oh my God.
I mix them all up.
Yeah, they're like paper dolls. I'm like rando blonde or whatever, and the only difference between them and the Fox and Friends blondes is that nobody has ever awkwardly sat them on a couch in a short skirt with a camera that is knee height with a fucking small bouquet of flowers in front of them so that skeevy Fox viewers can go, one of these fucking days, man. One of these fucking days.
I'm going to get my shot.
Oh, she's going to slide one left or right. And I'm going to see it's got basic instinct.
Did you see why she looked at me? I know she's looking at me.
She's right. She loves me. Let go of the remote.
Why is it so sticky?
Wow. All right. You just saw it, ladies and gentlemen. JoJo dunked on me right there. She went further than even I went this morning, and that's saying a lot. No, it's good. I mean, first of all, it's not going to be fucking Mike Lindell. They're going to pull a Mike Johnson, I gotta think, right? They're going to bring in somebody that's like go-to nobody.
I don't know. I don't even know what the actual function of that person is anymore, given that Ronna had said, they were going to do all these things where they were going to have to, say that they would all endorse the person, whoever it was. And then Trump didn't. And then Trump didn't go to the debates. And all. So she just kept backing up her own bullshit. And so it basically was just a name where she got to collect a paycheck. So I don't even know what that person actually has to do at this point.
Punching bag.
Right? Or just the face of the RNC, but is Ronna even the face of the RNC at this point? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's no one of any merit in the entire orbit, so it might as well just give it to Don Jr. or some shit.
Oh my God, or Eric. Well, the interesting thing is that I don't know what their status is as a. Are they technically a 501c3? Because he can't run a charity in the state of New York. So he couldn't run the RNC overall and have it have an outpost if it's technically a political, if it's qualified under the same thing, right?
Well, I don't know. I think if there's a way for them to do it, And if it's illegal, they'll probably try it anyway.
Right. Yeah, I guess. I'm sorry. You're right. Silly me. I was thinking like a human being on Earth 1.
You're like 501c. Is that like a type of orange juice? Like, is it a vitamin?
Right, yeah. It's good. It's tartar than the usual kind. I will say that. And usually you have to brush your teeth before drinking orange juice to get the real, that's what I shoot for.
It just cuts that middleman right out.
So I know nobody wants to be in the prediction business or whatever, but what's your thoughts on the border deal going through? Because I have
All right. Well, mine is sadly that it's done. It's not happening. I don't think it's even. I don't even think it's going to a vote in the Senate now because Mitch mitched, right? Like he basically was like, I don't want to die, and now I think what they're going to do is this carve out. I don't know if you saw this today, but it's this aid for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel carve out, which they're going to decide on sometime today, which is the only part of that bill that like really actually is that important to McConnell and Rubio and the Lindsey Grahams, where they were kind of like, you know what, this is something we really need, even though we can't give them the border issue to help Biden. We need to do this. So I don't think there's any border deal. I think that they're idiots and they think that the American people are stupid and are going to be like, oh, sure, we'll wait a year for the crisis, for the invasion. Okay, sure.
Yeah. A crisis is an invasion, but it can wait 12 months. Yeah. Right. It kind of cuts against the crisis narrative, one would think. I think it's a very strong possibility. They do separate that big chunk out because it's a defense appropriations and it has all kinds of it's other stuff, continuing resolution effectively for military spending on submarines and all kinds of other shit that you have to get through, that this is going to be one of those bills. But even that piece, because it will have the Ukraine and the Israel funding in it, to pass the Senate again, they won't be able to strip it out in the House, so it'll go through, and he's going to have to bring it up, or it's going to cut funding for all kinds of stuff. And then, much to their chagrin, I think there is a version where they tweak a couple of some of the wording. They lower the overwhelming number to 3,000 when they give the president the option to shut it down instead of 5, and their encounters, and they add a distinct label for what encounters mean under this context. Doesn't mean people in. It doesn't now, but people seem to be selling that, like all the right-wingers are selling that 5,000 let in a day is the idea, which is horseshit, but whatever. Right. And they'll clarify some part of it. And then I think there is a strategic reason why they wait, 3 weeks and put it up. And then they tweak it a little bit more, and then they put it up, and Schumer puts it up. Even if they lose the vote, the conversation shifts from they can only lie about what's in it for so long at Fox and other places before they have to kind of confront the details of it. It's like the economy. Like they really do hang on the idea that the numbers suck when they don't, but they can only lie so much before you have a Kudlow come out and go, I'd be bragging too. And I think they're going to run into that with this bill. And they kind of had a chance to almost like bury it and give themselves an out, which is, it's better than nothing. We got a little bit of something, but we had to do it because it's a defense appropriation. But what I want is Trump in so he could just shut it down because he doesn't even need that. He'll just use his executive authority. But if anything helps, we're going to add to it because it's a crisis. I think they painted themselves into a corner. If they vote for it, they're fucked. If they vote against it, they're fucked.
100%. And I because Trump, like, he's not that strategic. He's just like, it's like he's Veruca Salt. Like, just say no. I need you to say no. That's the litmus test. That's the loyalty. That's what I need you to do. Right. So they can't do that. They can't not do that right now because his eye is on, as long as it'll last, his attention is on this issue right now where it's like, you can't give Biden any wins at all. So I think you might be right that they're certainly not going to revisit this at this moment and then not give Trump what he wants. So maybe they'll figure out a way to where he's not paying that close attention and get themselves something that they can run on, which is we did something on the border. We'll see.
Well, even still, I think there's a strategic value in making them vote again. I mean, this is what they tried with the Mayorkas vote, even though they failed in the House. They were trying to get people on record. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying. They're trying to get everybody on record where they stand, which is just a bunch of dicking around. But when it comes to the border bill, voting against it, I mean, that's walking a plank for a lot of senators. Oh, yeah. Especially with this every state's a border state horse shit that they're selling. Like, fuck off, Arkansas.
Right. I'm in North Dakota. Well, it is a border state.
Yeah,
but
right. With Canada. Yeah,
exactly.
What are you worried about? Poutine and and light beer? Take off, eh? Don't ruin our show, you hoser. Yeah, beauty, eh?
Way to say disco fries.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're gonna make us say a boot. Again, like even Florida saying it, you're like, dude, they show up on a raft and it's a totally different thing. They can't just hike. It's a fucking major endeavor.
Yeah, but Trump would probably convince them that they'll still build a wall. They'll build a wall.
Yeah, right, totally. It'll kind of fuck up the beach. Shut up.
We're gonna get Cuba to pay for it.
Right.
Who's gonna pay for it?
I got Cuba to give us 28,000 mariachis and plantains to use as spackle. It's great. Stop, everybody. Smells like banana. What's not to like? What is...
He's got some major tostones, doesn't he? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can kill me now. Please do.
No, no, absolutely. This is a safe space for that kind of talk. Can I?
My daughter I rolled so hard she fell out of her seat.
Well, she can't. She can't hear the other half of the conversation, right? Because are you on headphones, or she can't? Yeah, so it's even weirder, right?
Yeah.
So I honestly think I think part of the strategy is, and it seems to be working out, that the Biden White House strategy seems to be that the waiting on this border bill until we're in the actual election year, putting this thing up, giving them so much of what they've asked for, which is already pretty normal anyway. It's been in every immigration bill that's come up in the House or the Senate, whether Democrats or Republicans are in control, to deal with a lot of this stuff, had like 90% of this shit in it. And the other 10% is flexible, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can make the changes you need to make, and it gives the secretary and the president discretion to deal with emergencies or large groups of people coming in. And the weaponization of like migrants is a big thing that China, Russia, and like some of the Middle Eastern leaders, not just Iran, but Saudi Arabia does it sometimes too, where they just herd people in a direction. Boko Haram and the Sudanese have done it. Like they just try to like screw with the next country over by pushing the refugees in that corner, make it your problem, and then you bleed some of their resources, and then you attack and that kind of stuff. That's been around for a long time. It's not unheard of that they would try to do it in the United States. Cause it won't upend our economy, but it'll create disunity and infighting and all this shit and tension with migrants and tensions with anybody who English is their second language, and that's the goal. So the president should have some leeway in going, all right, knock it the fuck off if it gets to that number. So I think they'll do some modifications on it and put it up again. But by making them not do this vote, and the bill is out there, like people can fucking read it. They can misread it too, which they've been doing. But this is pretty fucking smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's bipartisan. Langford is woke now. Like Langford is woke. What is happening? But yeah, it's bipartisan. It's been underway. They've been working on this for months and months. This is what was on their wish list. By the way, it's very telling to me that Democrats aren't freaking the fuck out, because basically nothing we've been wanting is in there. And the opposite, the Democrats are like, we get it. This is big for us. We need this. We understand the political ramifications of this as much, if not more, than they do. But they were willing to go there, and the Republicans are just like, nope, can't touch it. Trump said no, and Langford is the woke rhino. Like this is where.
Well, I think that's what happens when you, if you're in a poker game with somebody and everybody's playing with chips, and then you have your favorite car and you throw the keys on the table because you run out of chips, and now you're betting your prized possession. I know you care about that. So now I know about you. You can't afford to lose this. So your tells will be bigger, your bluffs will be bigger, and if you do have a big hand, I will kind of know it ahead of time because you wouldn't dare put that out there. The problem is the they have been talking such a big deal about crisis at the border, crisis at the border, crisis at the border. They've made such a big fucking deal out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won't vote for this fucking bill.
Right.
Or even on it. Or even put it up for debate.
Right.
Right?
Right. And it's not just that it's not just the border issue that they've been, like you said, running on it. They've been stomping their fists on the tables saying fentanyl and human trafficking, and all of those issues are intersectional with the border. That these are the things. These are like they've never done anything. They've never accomplished anything. They haven't done anything about inflation or prices or any of the other stuff they run on. They didn't even protect gas stoves. So like now they're going to be like, well, fentanyl can wait a year, and human trafficking, well, we can traffic a few more people over the course of this year. But then we're going to get to it. It's like it undermines whatever the few things that they have are all undermined. Plus, of course, immigration and the border and the caravans and the invasion and the razor wire and all of the nonsense. They've undermined it all.
Well, and also the Biden administration, again, had a meeting with the Mexican government. They have been coordinating with them to try and lower the numbers at the border. It has dropped by 80%. People coming through. They are, instead of Trump like, I got 20,000 at our border. They're like, motherfucker, put them at the southern border. Most of these people coming across aren't Mexican. And the Mexican government has to deal with an influx of these people too. Because a bunch of them do come here, but a lot of them stay there because they speak Spanish. And there's actually a decent like manufacturing growth that's happening there, labor growth and that stuff. Mexico is America's #1 trading partner. It outpaced China in the last year. So real strategy, real shit. And now it's a conspiracy. They've been talking to the Mexican government, trying to mess with everybody and fix it so that in the election year, the number of people crossing will go down. Like
the amazing thing about how like tactical we've learned Joe Biden is that he could have plotted that conspiracy with Mexico while also manufacturing the decade-long ascension of a pop star and a tight end and manipulating the entire professional football league that is the NFL and 4 indictments and 91 criminal charges over the course of several years. And he's not able to tie his shoes at the same time. Like it's really, you have to be, how do you square those things?
Yes, that has bugged me, that contradiction in terms. That's why Trump occasionally will say, I don't think he's really running things, because he's got to believe there's a team of like brilliant people. But I got news for you. Even if Biden just goes, I need some brilliant people around me to run these strategies because I don't fucking know this shit. I do other things or whatever. That in and of itself is fucking brilliant. As Clint Eastwood once said, man's got to know his limitations. And that's exactly it. The funny part is that, what's happening, the scuttlebutt around like Republicans right now is that, and it's hilarious to me because you obviously have seen this too. The Democrats, we always stick together. There's no infighting. We got a clear message. Like all the bullshit people used to say about the Republican Party, like they could fit their shit on a bumper sticker and they all vote lockstep. We used to say about them. They're now saying about Democrats. It's bizarre.
It's crazy. It's upside down. It's upside down. But I will say, I'm actually kind of shocked, even though the Democrats have like a wide, the spectrum is very wide within the party. You've got AOC and Tlaib over here, and you've got, the really hardcore, like moderates that are over on the other side of it. I would put Nancy Pelosi sort of in that camp, but not as much. But they find coalition with each other because they're like, dude, compared to them, we have no choice. Like this is our moment. We got to be the grown-ups in the room right now. Yeah.
Well, imagine being so fucked up that you create unity in the Democratic Party.
Right.
I mean, think back to fucking Bernie Bros and all the Hillary stuff and fucking, Elizabeth Warren is a fucking snake emoji and all that shit. And somehow Donald Trump's a uniter. The only thing he didn't do is unite the country. He just united the Democratic Party. Like, okay, this motherfucker though. Like everybody, the squad to like everybody.
Nope. Like, but
Nope.
he's also united like Democrats and the old guard of Republicans. Now
Right.
this is not a huge coalition where you've got these old Republicans who are like, no, sorry, this is not my party. Like, I'm not signing up with this shit. And I'm like, oh my God, my best friends are Republicans. Like, I'm one of those people now. Where I'm like,
Right.
oh my God, I totally agree with you on stuff. And we're not fighting about like taxes. It's so weird. But
Yeah.
Trump did that.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think that entails the death of the Republican Party as we know it? Because I feel like brands hump along these days in ways that they didn't used to. You know, when the Whig Party was dying, it was like somebody lit a wick. It was only a matter of time. But the Republican Party can just be like, well, there's still brand value in this shitty thing, so it stinks, but we can carry it around for who wants the hot potato. Let's just call it this from now. You know. We know what we're talking. I know what you mean. Here.
It's on the end cap at the grocery store where it's like the Easter candy that was weird combinations of flavors.
Yeah, right.
There's the Republican Party just sitting there.
Peanut butter nerds. Ugh. No, exactly. Chili with no beans, no meat, and no spices. Who would can this? Yeah, that's the Republican Party, right? Still says chili on the fucking
it's
can.
Just water. It's just water.
It's just,
old dirty
right,
water.
It's just dirty brownish water with
and
chili.
Like, honey, I found it. I've been looking for this.
We're having chili tonight.
I'm gonna put it over them peanut butter nerds.
Yeah, I like all brand, no content.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a lot of that these days. Like I kind of came to a realization. Thanks, CSL. I came to a realization recently, just as a comic, that I was like getting irritated by watching my fellow comedians who were doing specials going, controversy is not comedy. Just saying shit in an attempt to be canceled so you can draw attention to your shit now is being like edgy for the sake of edgy is not a joke. It's not comedy. I mean, there might be something worthwhile in saying things that are shocking. There might be something worthwhile in going straight at, you know, a misapprehension that society has right now. Totally worthwhile. Mm-hmm. But that ain't comedy. That's just somebody talking. That's just philosophy. You know, stand-up philosopher. Bullshit artist. Right? Yeah. Right. But, you know, if you're a comedian, you need jokes around it. You need to, it has to be, the undergirding has to be fucking comedy. Beef Twizzlers. People are throwing products into the chat. Well, from
Beef
your
Twizzlers.
Yeah.
It sounds like a sexual organ. I don't want to know.
It does, absolutely. She got him right in the beef Twizzler. Ow. Right, that's just so sad. Right. Anyways, he got his beef Twizzler caught in the door. You know what I'm saying? So he's not going to be at the party.
Either that or it's like an STD. Oh, give me the worst case beef Twizzlers ever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now I got the fucking old Twizzler mouth in my mind with a fucking cold sore on it. Thanks, JoJo. God damn.
Just try and picture your grandmother getting out of the bathtub, and that will erase any thoughts of the beef Twizzler mouth.
I actually saw my grandmother get out of the bathtub once. It was my great grandmother walked in on her. It was very weird. It was very uncomfortable, more uncomfortable for her than it was for me, because I was like, "Oops, I'm sorry," and she was like, "Oh," you know, because she was a great grandmother.
But how old were you at the time?
9.
I was gonna say, depending on how old you were, it was really awkward.
Yeah, no, if I was like 19 and sweaty and wearing jean shorts, it'd been even weirder. Just glistening muscles and that kind of stuff. Just came in to wash my hands, Meemaw. How you doing? Don't mind me.
Did you get your tickets to the game show, Meemaw?
I'll be out in a minute. Sorry.
Let me just get my beef Twizzler out of these pants.
Yeah, right. Gotta drain the old beef Twizzler. You know what it's like. You lived on the frontier. Don't act like you haven't dealt with this. You had a horse farm. Leave me alone. I don't know. I love having you on. It was the first time really having you on the morning show, and I just think it's fantastic. We're gonna have to do this more regularly.
Yes, please.
And I want to remind everybody,
my legacy only be beef twizzlers.
I mean, that's believe me, someone is AIing images for that right now. They're just making them happen, no question.
Seriously.
Somebody's like, I just coughed up my one good lung. That's that's COVID. That's what COVID left us. Everybody's just got one good lung. Yeah.
I shouldn't ask that.
So on our way, we got in our last 5 minutes this morning together, and we'll do this again in the near future. Because I think were you on the morning show before, or was it the afternoon show? I can't remember, because I just I think it was the morning show. You're right. So but on our way there, I want to remind everybody that, see that little link tree thing or whatever, that's all. You'll find all our links there, but that's the at JoJo from Jers is how you find her on Shitter and Threads and all that kind of stuff. And she doesn't normally glow like she is today. It's just where the sun is right now.
Right. I'm ascending to meet my creator.
That's right. You leaned into it a minute ago and your like nose lit up, and I was like, it had a very like I almost heard the Rudolph noise.
I've got a glowing microphone right now, and that is
it's nice.
Again,
I
not
like
a sexual reference, but it is.
That's right. That's right. Well, the light's making my beef Twizzler look all weird. I gotta all right. So I guess technically you're like you're kind of the story you think. I'm always curious what people think isn't getting enough attention, like the story or the thing in the news or some talking point, some bullshit or whatever that like people aren't paying enough attention to, or the media isn't paying enough attention to, or people just it slipped by and you're like, why did people not notice that?
Yeah. I just think that the economy, I mean, all of Biden's wins, but the economy, I mean, as a mom who lives in the suburbs, I talk to my girlfriends at baseball games in the grocery store, and they're like, Joe, I see these numbers you put up on social media, and it's like, I don't feel that. Why don't I feel that? I still go to the grocery store. It's stupid expensive. Why is a pizza freaking $20? And that's the conversation that I feel like the media isn't having enough. Maybe the Biden administration isn't messaging exactly right, whereas, but also we talk about the corporations fucking like greedflation and like charging so much more for shit they don't have to because they got away with it during COVID. So I think that's the big one. I think we got to figure out how to, bridge that gap between what's actually happening and what like people in my neck of the woods are feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There is always a lag time when you have disinflation, because the inflation that was created was not caused by money supply. It was not caused by traditional inflation. This is supply shock, and they couldn't get the shit they needed. The eggs are a really good example of this, because that's the price that everybody kind of quotes is going up really high, and then it came down, but it hasn't come back down to kind of where it was and what the actual cost is. And there's a myriad of reasons why it's very close. I mean, right now you can get 18 eggs for the price of a dozen at Costco or whatever, and that's most grocery stores are overstocked with eggs right now. They have specials on them all the time. The price is still high, but it's a never-ending coupon, right? And the reason for that is because when all the chickens died because of the avian flu, which swine flu was why the bacon prices went up, because China had to cull 70 million fucking pigs and bought all of ours. They bought all of our piglets. All of them. And so they had to wait until another crop of those came in. So there was a huge delay on bacon and pork in the United States. That's why bacon prices went up. But luckily we didn't have swine flu over here. They had it horribly over there. But we did have avian flu. And Europe's having avian flu right now, and Russia's having it, and they blew it off entirely. But the price of the eggs went up because the chickens went down. And restaurants jumped to the front of the line because we were all still ordering just like we do from fucking, during COVID. We're still ordering food the same way. Everybody's Postmating like COVID never happened. They thought that was going to drop off, and it fucking well didn't. And so what happened after that? The price stayed up because restaurants were like, I'll pay more more. And so the grocery stores had to pay a premium to get some so they'd have stock. And so they had to pass that on to the consumer because it was their margin was already thin on eggs, and they rot. So that like the margin on eggs is like that fucking big most of the time because it's a staple. All the staples have a margin about this big because you're going to move them. and eggs are in everything. Eggs are, they're emulsifiers. They're in all kinds of shit. And everybody was jumping to the front of the line. We need them because if our restaurant shuts down, all our people lose their jobs. If you and I want to buy eggs one day at the grocery store and they don't have any, we'll do something else. But restaurants can't if they do. Right. So they jumped to the front of the line. And so that price stayed elevated for a while because they wanted to get ahead of it. Then it takes like, I want to say 9 weeks from a chick to grow to a hen laying egg, egg laying hen size. 9 weeks. So there's always this 9-week drift from filling that in. And they still didn't have, they had 100,000, they're like culling 100,000 chickens a week during this process. So the lag time on it is like, but you add this shit up, it's like 9-10 months. And the companies are still going, well, fuck, if we give away, what happens if it happens again? Do we have enough stock? Do we have enough birds? We have to pay to get them separated. We have to build another fucking barn because the only people that stayed afloat were the people who isolated their chickens. So there's a bunch of these companies, instead of having one big giant barn, they had, these big industrial barns. They had 6 little ones. Those are the ones that survived. So everybody started cutting up their fucking barns. They started moving around. Well, what happens? That's construction. That takes time. That takes money. That takes stuff. And if you got a steel tariff on China, you're going to have to get it from here. That's what's adding to all these prices because there's a little bit of that cost up, that supply shock in everything. And so it'll come down because it's not monetary inflation, it's supply shock. And as the supply gets more common again, that price is going to come down. The real problem we have is rent in this country. Rent and the cost of a home. We just got to start fucking building like we're idiots. We got to start, like city councils in places like LA and New York and Chicago and places like that have got to stop fucking dragging their feet on buildings they know are valuable. People knocking down a 3-story building and turning it into an 8-story building. Stop fucking around and let them do it. Because that's the only way, and it can't be low-income housing. You have to build middle-income housing because the middle-income people are living in the low-income housing right now because that's the only thing that's there. And the price of low-income housing is the middle-income price. Yeah. That's the issue.
You're right. 100%.
Yeah. Those two. So what I would say is that the reason everything's expensive at the grocery store largely is staffing, union jobs, and which are, people who are working at these factories and processing plants and all that kind of stuff are now getting a better wage. So that's a cost that's just going to be added. Get used to that idea. We pay what I call a slave tax on anything from China. So anything you used to get from China, H&M shirts. They're going to cost $1 more in general. That's a anti-slavery tax. China was using slaves, Uyghurs, and Miao people who they were forcing to pick cotton, which in this modern age, the idea that people are fucking picking cotton for us is just like, for fuck's sake. So that's always going to stay there because we're moving those factories over here. Everybody's like, we need these jobs to come back to America. Well, that costs money. The reason they were over there is because they were super cheap and they used slave labor. That's why. And when it comes to food, we also need more migrants because they're the folks who work in the food processing businesses. A bunch of them fucking died in the meat processing plants. And remember that? We had that one meat processing plant. The guy didn't vaccinate anybody and they lost 12 fucking people. Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons they're rolling back child labor laws because they're like, oh, well, we don't need the migrants. We'll just get the kids to do it.
Well, that's a farm thing, and they've been pushing for this for a long time. The problem with the child labor laws, and I'll let you go because I can start a lecture on this that will take forever. But the tug and pull between the child labor laws is farmers. Farmers want to be able to count their kids as dependents while they also work on the farm. And they want they want to be able to pay their kid through their business so the kid can own a piece of the business. So eventually when they turn it over, they don't have to turn it over to somebody who's not an employee or whatever. They can like Trump's trying with Don Jr. and them, but on a much smaller scale. So they want their kids to be able to work on the farm and that kind of thing, and earn their way through school. So that it's a business. You get a paycheck, you're going to school, you can Luke Skywalker your way through fucking school. The problem is back when we had child labor laws, is fucking roadside motor lodges. Roadside motor lodges in the United States and everywhere else in the world used to be pedo stops. And there was this big fucking problem with pedos running these fucking motor lodges with kids as the like young kids who would turn over the beds and that kind of shit. And all through the South, it was a huge deal. So Louisiana, Mississippi, fucking all those areas, you'd find these fucking motor lodges, and they'd have their own little special flags back in the 40s and 30s, and that's what they would fucking. That's why they had kids working in the fucking rooms, and the child labor laws were really designed to just stop that shit, because it put them because, and again, you could fine tune it. You could say outdoor farm work for family members, totally fine, but you can't work in any situation where there's OSHA rules about the interior of a building. You could fucking settle that in an afternoon. But that is precisely fucking why we passed that law. Was the myriad of roadside motor lodges that were basically like these little like rolling pedo camps, which were fucked up, and they shut them down because they used to also have. I mean, there were brothels too that were like adults. You know, like Bessel Whorehouse in Texas is based on an actual Texas. Like brothel that was down there, and everybody used it, but they only got in trouble when the governor's wife got wind of it and got mad, and that's what that musical is actually about. It's a true story. Really? Yeah, but it was that, you know, that they could have these organizations, and that's why you had to have certain rules about checking employees and what they do and all that kind of shit. And then the other part, and why unionization also had a big part of that. But the other part was these little fucking motor lodges that were creeped out, that were like, you know, every 150 miles all through the South and out into the West for a long time. So that was the rule, because you just didn't want these kids working around adults and fucking, you know, disappearing or being used or any of that kind of stuff. And it's ironic that Marjorie Taylor Greene, with all her fucking bullshit, doesn't know that simple fact. Like, she's one of the people trying to get this is a MAGA thing. She's trying to get child work permits back out there too, because Georgia, we need those little kids to pick cotton for us, right?
Yeah, but you want to protect our kids.
That's right. Anyways, thank you so much for being on today. I really greatly appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again very, very soon. Jojo from Jersey, everybody. Go to her linktree.ee / Jojo from Jersey. I copied and pasted that from your fucking Twitter bio just so I get that right. And I was like, God damn it, Linktree really does .ee? That's so fucking weird.
That's the first time I ever noticed.
Yeah, that's what the link is. That's what it says on your site. It's very curious. Phil's waiting in the wings, so I'm going to let you go, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye. Meet Twizzler. Bye. Just going to leave her with that. Okay, now, and there she goes, and I'm going to copy. Now, for a moment, hold on. I'm going to guess to go back to here, and I'll turn this off first, because I don't want, it'll be awkward if I put his name in there. We'll open up, and there we go, and I'll bring in, that's why, because I have my own, what am I doing? Phil's in here. He's got his own page. I forgot. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. And I can hear him in the background, and there he is. And ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1. I will in a second. 3, 2, 1. Bink. There he is. Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Ittner joining us. Hey. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Yeah.
How you doing? Yeah?
Not good.
I'm sorry. Good. Okay. Well, tell us about it. Hold on one second.
Shitty day, man. Shitty day. Starting with Congress's betrayal, followed through by a U.S. opportunist giving
Tucker Carlson, right?
Indicted war criminal a platform to say whatever the fuck he wants with very little pushback, because Tucker's not going to give him a hard time.
Right.
Tucker's not going to ask him the hard questions. He's just going to let Putin say whatever the fuck he wants. And it will disseminate. It will
right.
It will be put out there in the little corner. And you know what? And also fucking Musk.
Yeah.
This is beneficial for him. It's going to be on his.
That's the actual platform. Right. That's the actual platform. Because, again, Musk has a history of trying to undercut the Ukrainian people that I think after this is all over is going to need quite the reckoning. Because that whole shit about, like, shutting down Starlink on multiple things, like slowing it, and, specifically, I'm sure he has throttled it more than we even know. And then to have, and support Tucker.
He has clearly been messing with his algorithm because everything is pro Putin, pro Tucker Carlson. This is a great thing that's happening.
Right.
And I saw a thing from Musk. I mean, if there's any question of Musk's leanings, he himself posted on X. Somebody put out, why haven't we heard? Why haven't people are complaining that Carlson won't be harsh on Putin. Well, what Western journalist has ever been hard on Zelensky? To which Musk, and this is as offensive as it comes, replies, it's hard to be conducting aggressive interview when your balls are in your mouth, when you're sucking on Zelensky's balls. I mean, it's childish. Also, aside from just being crude as fuck,
right?
It's just
he's stealing from me again because I've been rubbing that whole Trump ball gargler thing in their face for quite some time, and that sounded weird. But I literally have been driving that one home, and you know what? At least he's stealing from the best. But it's not going to actually amount to a hill of beans ultimately, because again, the curious thing about X right now is that he's turned it into a shit posting site, and it only has value for that dissemination point. When it wasn't like that. Now it might as well be posted on Parler to some degree, and even the trolls don't carry any weight. If you go on there and start a little bit of a flame war, as I am wont to do at times, it has zero impact on the rest of your internet experience because it just lives and dies there. These guys are it's a circle jerk.
Yeah. No, I have to admit that I spent an awful lot of last night into the morning, frankly. I shouldn't have done it. But there were so many offensive things floating out there that I couldn't just let it sit there. And I mean, here's so, and then at around 6 a.m, I went to bed around 5 a.m, and around 6 a.m, we got pelted, absolutely pelted, massive attack. 5 people are dead right now. 5 families don't have a loved one right now. And this motherfucker is in Moscow giggling that cackly little manic laugh that he does.
Right. While
people are dying here. And he's gallivanting around Moscow, getting the number one tour. He's being taken to all the best events and best restaurants, and just he's getting the A-lister existence in Moscow. And he said, I love Moscow. To which I, you want to say, well, go to Murmansk, motherfucker.
Right, yeah. Of course you do.
Go right. The rest of the country looks like. Moscow is not just like London is not the UK or, Washington or DC or New York.
Not the United States, right.
Not America. But it's more insidious than that because of the way that Russia is set up, that the drop-off from St. Peter's and Moscow, the 2 capital cities of Russia, the drop-off from that is significant. You get a little tapering off at places like Ekaterinburg and Sochi. But if you go to the real cities of Moscow, of Russia, they're shitholes. Absolute shitholes. Because they're not, they're only there to serve the capital. Everything flows to Moscow, and that's the alternative. Again, we've talked about this, but that's the alternative that Russia is offering us. Is Tucker going to talk about that? I don't think so.
No, I mean, I honest to God, first of all, as someone who's like, when I went on my, I was doing my show in China, I became increasingly aware over time, and I was silly enough to be slightly naive to believe a little bit of what they were telling me in the beginning, because they seemed to be wanting to open up and speak more freely about what the honest issues they had in the country. We were going to film stuff and whatever. And it took me about 24 hours to go, oh, that guy didn't cancel. Our interview tomorrow didn't cancel. They took him away. They're going to drive us someplace else, and they're going to make sure we're in a vehicle with no windows on the entire way there. And I know that because I just walk the route, because I get up in the morning and walk around where they're going to take us, and I see what they don't want me to see. And over the weeks and months, it was shocking how much I was like. I'm like the attempted manipulation and the corralling of what I could see and what I couldn't see and all that stuff. So of course there's going to be.
Well, and of course a guy like Tucker doesn't have a sincere curiosity. So he's not going to care. He's going to be taking hand in hand, hand in glove, down all the he'll go to the Bolshoi, and he'll be taking all the beautiful places of Moscow. He's not going to go to the real Russia. He'll never see that.
He's gonna get the Steven Seagal treatment.
Yeah, right, exactly. Look, I don't think that this interview, such as it is, and I hesitate to call it an interview. I think he's engaging in information warfare.
Agreed.
And there's talk, by the way, in the last couple of hours. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's talk in the European Union of sanctioning him, not letting him travel within the European Union.
Sure.
Because he is platforming a indicted war criminal.
Right. Even when, like, Oliver Stone, I would argue. Crazy. Yeah, Oliver Stone did the exact same shit. And when you watch Oliver Stone's, if you watched his documentary where he's following Putin around, it's fucking horrible. It's just such blather. And I'm like, I'm one of those people who I grew up with sort of the understanding that Oliver Stone was one of our truth tellers, and that, the stuff he made was, the uncomfortable truths, and he told it in a very direct way, and yada yada yada. And then you look at Natural Born Killers is actually a stolen property. He took it, he ripped it off from another, like a French film, I think it was, and then and you're like, oh, okay, he's just kind of making agitprop, anti-American agitprop now. That's his gig. He's just decided at some point that that's the side of the bread the butter goes on, and so he's just an agitprop artist now. And the same thing, but this was at least before he was an indicted war criminal, before Bucha.
Before Bucha,
now, he did plenty of shit, by the way, that disqualified him.
He did plenty of sure. As far as I'm concerned, he came to power. By a criminal act. I mean, I was in Moscow when he came to power. I went to those apartment buildings. He did it. He killed 300 of his own people to try and get back into Chechnya and to have a war to bring them to heel, and also to send a message that, we're back and strong. He killed 300 of his own people, and then also conducted the war in Chechnya, the second war in Chechnya, in a horrific manner, and empowered Kadyrov to do terrible, disgusting things. So when Oliver Stone was going around filming his little documentary with Putin, that was already something that was very real. But we're in a whole other world now with this war in Ukraine and what he's done in ethnic cleansing. Tucker Carlson, look, everybody is going crazy about this. This whole thing, and that's partially by design. It's meant to stir up emotions, and it has succeeded. Certainly it succeeded with me. I'm pretty pissed off right now. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it may be a little boost for X and Musk, and shamefully, and he should, shame on him for doing this. Tucker Carlson has no shame, but shame on him for doing this. But this isn't going to break any new ground. It'll reinforce the belief structure of a lot of people that already had that belief structure. Yeah. That Putin, this great, defender of family values, and look what he does. And he made Russia strong again, and he's pushing back against the hegemony of the West and America in particular. But they already had that opinion. This isn't going to change. And Putin's not going to say anything new about the war.
Right. He's not going to say anything. If anything, I think at some point he's probably going to end up, because of how he's been talking lately, saying something in the order of, they had it coming and it's not our fault, and they were going to attack us, or some variation of the NATO story.
Yeah, and there's been indications that there's been some leaked information that maybe he might go with the thing of Ukraine is Russia and always has been.
Right.
It's been it's been fooled into
the Taiwan storyline,
different entity. Yeah,
that
it's been corrupted by the CIA and MI6. It's always the Anglo-American alliance that has fooled Ukraine into believing that there's something other than Russians, but they're really just Russians, and that's the only reason we're there is to bring them back into the fold, which is the most reprehensible, disgusting. But I actually genuinely believe Putin believes that. He's wrong,
right?
But I think in his heart, because he can't, like so many Russians, he's so locked into the imperial mindset of, well, of course they're part of us. They've always been part of us, and we built so much together. And we are. It's the abusive husband who can't believe that just because he's been smacking the little lady around for a while, that she's decided to take off and find greener pastures with another lover, that he can't understand. Well, I only beat you a few times. What are you talking about? It's that kind of mentality that. It's so
and the thing is, if they're ever allowed to, they will separate. They will find their own way, and they will be a powerful force in the EU and a very a country with genuine culture and direction. And that's what abusive partners always do. Is that like the and one I thing?
Argue, I have argued for a long time. You and I have discussed this many times. Yeah. I do believe that ultimately losing this war will be good for Russia, because it'll force them to look in the mirror and make the hard changes that they didn't want to do post 91. Post collapse of the Soviet Union, they fell into absolute chaos, and they clutched at any straw, and they didn't want to do the hard work of actually building civil society or a court system or all the trappings of a modern democracy, a modern state. They just fell back on the default setting of autocracy. And maybe when Putin is, thrust from his throne, chucked off his throne, because when he loses this war, it's going to be disastrous.
Right.
For him, maybe they'll do the hard work. The sad thing is now, with all the obstructionists that I was hoping we were starting to find a way around, but I mean, I don't know, this bill that I guess is going to be voted on today down from the Senate. The Senate is, I don't know if they're going to get any money out of that. I guess it's suspected, or it's the diagnosis is, the prognosis is not good.
Well, so, we'll see, but it's the same amount of money that they had originally allocated. It's just tied to Israel funding at this point, and we'll see if they try to shoot it down. And again, the Biden administration, is finding a lot of workarounds, both in the gear stuff they're working out with Greece and other members of the EU. We'll send you guys stuff, like we've got all these treaties with all these separate countries to send them stuff. We send you this stuff, you send the other stuff to them, and it's really smart. As a matter of fact, driving back from Los Angeles or driving to Los Angeles yesterday during the day, there's this one point where you go under this railroad pass, and the entire there was a train on, sort of stopped before it was moving on to the next piece, and it was all, I guess, Bradleys. It was all Bradleys, and they're obviously being taken to Long Beach. Yeah, to be put on a boat, and that's we're
at a low point. We're at a real low. This does not reflect well on us, and I feel I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm depressed. This is not good, man. We have not sent any fundamentals. I mean, like any large scale shipments since October. They're losing ground in Avdiivka, no doubt about it. It's undeniable at this point. Things are not going well on the battlefield, and things are not going well with air defense. I mean, this morning's attack is an indication of that. We have lost a lot of time, and this all the rest of it. It's just.
I agree. Real quick, Ask in our chat is saying, please ask Phil about the tanks from Kuwait. Yeah.
I haven't heard about tanks from Kuwait, but
Kuwait.
We left a lot of we left a lot of Abrams there, so it might be possible that
I think
that gets. We're trying to go through third party countries and get stuff sent in, and that's absolutely necessary. And I'm not. Ultimately, I still have faith. It's like it's the old Winston Churchill. It's probably apocryphal because most Churchill sayings are, but there's the old Churchill saying, ostensibly in which he said, you can always trust on the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried every other alternative.
Done everything else right.
When we'll see.
I also think that there seems to be a bit of a coordinated strategy here. If you move back and put on your conspiratorial hat for 1 second, this idea that the MAGA crowd in the Congress is running interference for Russia and trying to stop all this shit and dragging, funding and making sure it doesn't get through. And then after a certain amount of time, as that has dragged, then you send Tucker Carlson over to go, you want peace? It seems like you want peace. It seems like they don't want peace. And that's what this is about. Yes. And that'll be his take on it, whether the answer is that or not. Because I got news for you. None of his viewers are going to fucking read the translation on the bottom of the screen. They're just going to hear he's going to and and Tucker's going to go, stare at him with his fucking butt crack forehead and go, yeah, like that. And that clip will float around where Tucker Carlson basically spoon feeds him I've heard that perhaps this is an overture to a ceasefire, and then the onus would then be on the West and on Ukraine. Right. He brings back the message that we're not willing to participate in a ceasefire, and that'll be that's the main point of his story, right?
It'll be our fault, and then there will be this whole discussion about Putin's being reasonable. We're the ones that are being obstructionist and difficult, right? And that's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Putin is going to run rings around. I mean, the reason why he didn't want to do it. I mean, like it was funny when maybe you've seen the video. It's of course everywhere of why we're doing this, why I'm interviewing Vladimir Putin, and it starts with a lie. I mean, at the very very
that no Western journalist wants to or does, right? And the Kremlin fact checked him. Yeah, the Kremlin fact checked him. They got a community notes thing. And the Kremlin spokesperson said that's not true, and he wouldn't even know that detail if it were true. Yeah, he wouldn't know if we weren't letting people talk.
I'm buddies with Steve Rosenberg. Okay, Steve Rosenberg is the head of the BBC Moscow bureau. I mean, I say we're buddies. We're friendly acquaintances.
Sure.
Anyhow, and Steve put out a thing almost immediately saying, no, we have asked repeatedly for Putin for a sit-down interview with Putin, and we have not received it. To which it begs the question then, if every Western news organization in Moscow has been asking for an interview with Vladimir Putin, which I'm sure they have, why isn't he Tucker? What is it so special about Tucker?
Because he's a friendly.
Because he's a friendly. And also he knows nothing about Russia. He knows nothing about Russia or Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, he further goes on to say the other, we think it's important that we talk to the other country that's involved in this. Motherfucker, the two countries that are involved are not America and Russia. It's Ukraine and Russia. Why aren't you talking to Ukraine? You're going to come. He says he's extended an interview or a request to Zelensky.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, frankly. I'm not 100% sure. That's a good idea.
Zelensky's response to it should be the same as it was to Trump, which is, come on over. I'll talk to you. Fuck you. And then when and then watch, Tucker and Elon Musk squirm, and then we'll, next year, sometime after Joe Biden's been reelected, we'll have a congressional weaponization of social media committee hearing or whatever left over from this shit, and they'll look at it and go, oh yeah, he put his thumb on the scale of the Putin interview to make sure it was there, and then he downplayed the Zelensky interview.
He'll play softball with Putin. He'll come to Zelensky and he'll ask him, the most,
questions he's been given by the Kremlin.
And not only that, but I wouldn't doubt for a second that the Kremlin wouldn't give them a little bit of their, classified information that I'm sure they have. Because of course there are spies here,
right?
And he's going to try. If this were to happen, he would treat Putin with kid gloves, and then he would show up here and play dirty pool with Zelensky.
Right.
Unfortunately, Zelensky wouldn't have a choice, and I lean towards him. Yeah, calling Musk and Carlson's bluff and saying, come on over.
Yeah, come on over. I'll talk to you. Absolutely. And I
it's
think
reprehensible. It's just, Carlson has always been such a disgusting person.
Absolutely.
And I as a San Franciscan, I know what kind of environment that guy grew up in.
Yeah.
He can't. Everybody talks about San Francisco being this ultra liberal city.
Yeah.
Read Olmsted Maupin.
Yeah.
There is a very conservative side to San Francisco, and it tends to be in the villas and the mansions that are up on Russian Hill and up on Twin Peaks. There's a side to San Francisco that's very conservative, and that's where he comes from. He comes from the rarefied air of the elite in San Francisco. He's a scumbag. Jon Stewart pegged him all those years ago.
Yeah.
Stop, dude.
Yeah, real quick, Matt O'Grady, thank you for the super chat. Oh my God, you're wonderful. Tobias, thank you so much, our dear Canadian friends who are taking such good care of us. And Kathy Donenville, thank you for that super chat as well. And thanks for all the likes and everything, guys. And Ninka Kriggles, thank you for gifting subs. Really lovely on Twitch. I think there was a point where Tucker Carlson, while he was either still on Fox or had just moved over to X, had, a little more, maybe some cachet or whatever. But since he's been dicking around on X, interviewing Russell Brand and Jimmy Dore, and basically doing his little fucking Fox Nation show at his barn that he built. And really it hasn't gone anywhere, quite frankly. How many times can you hear Matt Taibbi talk about the censorship industrial complex like an asshole? So I think ultimately this feels, I gotta say, as gross as it feels like a Hail Mary. It feels like, they're trying to jumpstart him into like, it's him and Piers Morgan at this point. Piers Morgan got kicked off of his network, and now he's got his little side gig show that he brings on, like, Hamas sympathizers and that kind of shit, and everybody, he gets the, like, panic clicks.
It's going to come and go. It'll come and go.
Yeah.
It'll be a storm in the teacup, and then it will come and go.
Yeah.
Because Putin is not going to break any new ground. He's not going to say anything we don't expect him to say, and ultimately it'll be. I suspect it's actually going to be a pretty boring interview at the end of the day. He'll say some stuff that'll be sweet music to a lot of the kind of tanky conspiratorial world. They'll just love it. They'll gobble it up.
Course,
but are we gonna remember it in 2 or 3 weeks, a month's time?
Nope. Well, and again, I think the whole interview is for one drop, and the idea is like what you're doing is you're kind of laying one brick of a narrative. You come in, and like I said, he's going to go for him to say, you guys wanted peace, and they wouldn't talk to you, and that's all he's got to say. That's 100%. Like that whole interview will be full of
myself. That might be the one thing that comes out of this.
That's what I'm saying.
News in and of itself, it'll be. You're absolutely right. It'll be a stepping stone.
It's not the brick; it's the mortar, and it's just propaganda mortar. That's what he's there for, because it's not like Putin and Zelensky and Zlevchevsky and all those assholes are saying, or not Zlevchevsky, was it Soloviev or and Simonyan are doing. Although I haven't seen her in a while, yeah. they're
No,
all
I haven't seen Simonian in a while. She
Yeah,
got
it's
all
weird.
upset because the Brits called her a beaver eater.
Really?
Yeah. The Times of, I think it was the Times, it might have been the Telegraph, put out a thing in which, in an editorial, they called Simonian a beaver eater, and she went ballistic. But you're right. No, look, they're all crowing like mad over there about
I'm just
Carlson.
amazed that a paper called her a beaver eater. Hold on a second. First of all,
Brits.
let me just say one of my favorite aliens, Sam Francisco from Alien Nation, ate raw beaver all the time. It's beaver. It's very tasty. It was very upsetting to James Constance.
You could go down the
Oh,
naked
can
gun
I?
route when Priscilla Presley is up on the little stairs and she's handing down the what is it, the stuffed animals, and, and Leslie Nielsen's looking up her skirt and goes,
Yeah,
nice beaver. Right, I just had it stuffed.
Yes, I just had it stuffed. Right.
These are all jokes, but they're still
yes, they are. They're working with it. So everybody was writing that in there as you actually were saying that, like the timing of it, like because the chat follows shortly thereafter. Now, I will say that I have not seen a particular downturn at any point in the channels that I watch of, like Ukraine Warriors or any of the battle footage or whatever. There's even though it's clear the Ukrainians need more munitions, even though it's clear they need more gear, it is amazing how much they are doing with how little.
True.
So they in Idchevsk in Russia, a military production plant was blown up, and
yes,
yeah,
on that side of the border. Yeah, no, there have been a couple of things.
Bring this over here, and
there was a manufacturing plant. There was an oil refinery.
Yeah. This guy right here.
What else?
This is that. Look at that thing.
There it is. Yeah.
Holy shit! Imagine looking out your window and seeing that. And that's in Russia. That's in Russia proper. This is another result of those, like, those drones that go 1,000 kilometers plus. And again, will one of them do that kind of damage? No, but you can make 14 of them. Yeah. And send them all at once. And if 8 of them get through and they hit the right place, not only will they destroy a bunch of shit, but as we saw with like the fuel processing plants or whatever, the refineries that they had, that they don't know how to put out the fire and they freeze their own gear and the water expands because it's ice cold and it pushes the metal apart and it wrecks stuff worse than the fire did.
Yeah, and they're probably drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, on this side of the equation, also when we're talking about drones, so there's a lot of talk that a town called, oh God, that comic is great. That cartoon is great.
It's got a Z armband and a minister of U.S. propaganda, and they still got a Fox microphone in his hand, which I think is hilarious. But it says Russian dressing, which is the part. Yeah, I mean,
the reason why he's conducting it and not a guy like Steve Rosenberg, because Steve Rosenberg has got 30 years in Moscow. He's going to be able to go like, hey, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? Carlson, this is an incredibly complex part of the world. I mean, and Carlson doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about over here.
He doesn't have to. Again, he doesn't have to. Like, as a matter of fact, honestly, this is the lesson of having somebody like me go over and do a show in China versus somebody, who's a little more dough-headed or doesn't speak the language. Is I go over there and I'm smart enough to look at listen to what you're telling me, give you the benefit of the doubt, but if it doesn't line up with what I see, I'm going to start looking for patterns. And if it happens again and again and again, I'm going to assume that this is either a setup or a fuck up. Everybody here is either doing everything wrong or they're doing everything right to make this wrong. And that was my experience. That was my experience in China. I was like, every time I turned around, I was like, okay, these can't be, in a country that's so uptight, these can't be mistakes. Not this many, not this consistently. They're sending us places. They're stopping us from going places specifically, and they're shrugging it off like, well, that thing fell through and it didn't quite work. And you're like, no, that's not how shit works at all. No. Yeah. I'm like, well, okay, we could just do it later in the day. No, it's just not available. We're going to go someplace else. Okay. And again and again and again and again and again. And again, what I was hearing in the press about the place didn't line up with what I actually saw and experienced. And again, I speak the language, so I could hear people talking around me. If they didn't know I spoke the language, it's like you in Russia. If they didn't know you spoke the language, you're walking around with a fucking U.S. press thing on it. They probably think they could speak freely right in fucking front of you. I'm sure you've overheard shit.
Oh yeah, I've had it happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally had that happen. Had that happen.
Tucker, insofar as I know, Tucker Carlson does not speak another language at all. Any language. Not even fucking like made Spanish, like the rich bastard that he is, right?
Made
right?
Spanish.
I'm serious.
Musk speaks fluent Russian.
Oh, sure he does. Absolutely. His Chinese is ass, but yeah. So I just think as we look at this,
But I wanted to get back to the drones just briefly because so it's not a done deal. There's a town out in the east in Donbass, very close to one of the most important cities ostensibly to the Russians, called Donetsk. Right next to Donetsk, there's a town called Avdiivka, and they've been fighting over it for months and months and months and months. With the shortage of equipment that they're getting and the lack of ammunition, the Ukrainians are having to fall back. Yep. It's not lost to them yet as of this very second, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do lose Avdiivka. Now, that's not good. It's not catastrophic because, again, as we've discussed, a lot of that part of the country is you're only replacing one transport hub for another transport hub. They're all transport hubs because there's an interlacing network of highways and roadways out there.
Sure.
But it's also not good because it is kind of the high ground leading down into Donetsk, and it does, you kind of have to go through Avdiivka to get to Donetsk, so they can claim a victory there. So it may fall. Now, if folks who are listening and paying attention see that and are in despair, I mean, it's not the worst. It's not great, but what is also out there is there's talk of another town along just after Avdiivka, not directly after Avdiivka, but nearby, called Kupiansk.
Yeah, and
there's reports of the Russians starting to mass troops to try and then, immediately following on from Avdiivka, if they do take it, to go to Kupiansk. Right. But we also know, and this came from Zelensky directly, that the Ukrainians are massing drones, like tens of thousands of drones, like a lot of these things, all carrying, whatever munitions they can get on them. Yeah. So they might swarm them. They have these kind of things that have 10 different grenades or artillery shells or mortar shells. I mean,
this is Skylab Ukraine. It has the Shulika MK6, which is basically a modification of a farm drone, which, by the way, Ukraine had tons of because of the amount of farming they do there. Like, they were the first early adopters, just like people in Kansas, getting these things for seed and pesticide and all kinds of shit like that. They're built to drop shit. This thing has 4 charges under it. The radius of action is 10 kilometers. The drone can carry a load of 6 kilograms, has its own high-precision control system, and is resistant to the effects of electronic warfare. So it's got shielding on it that keeps you from being able to, like, commandeer its signal. They've already tested it and given their feedback. The drone is important for tactical operations, especially at night. So that's their thing. They send these things all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in for a period, a difficult period here. I do. I think there has been a lag in the support because of the dithering from the Americans. Now, the Europeans are stepping up in certain measures, and that's great. The Dutch have just pledged a whole bunch of new F-16s. It's not doom and gloom, but we can expect some bad news probably in the next, month or two, whatever it's going to be.
Right.
But again, the important thing is to recognize that Ukraine's already won in some ways by surviving, just by surviving. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the war. I don't know if the West is going to try and force Ukraine to cede the land bridge and abandon Mariupol. I'm wary of that possibility. But Ukraine has already won victory by surviving, and there is no way that Russian tanks are going to be rolling down, the center of Kiev. It's just it's not going to happen. And and so all these people that talk about we're going to force the Ukrainians to the negotiating table, or we're going to force a peace on the Ukrainians by withdrawing our support. I've said it before. I will say it again. That is not an option.
Nope.
The only two options that the West has when it comes to the war in Ukraine, in my humble opinion, knowing the Ukrainians and living here, we either support them fully so that they can get to the sea. That's the most important thing that they can do, is get to the sea, because that will be, and then further on, hopefully to a full restoration of 91. But once they get to the sea, and it's undeniable that Ukraine can threaten Crimea, there will be a massive upheaval in Russia. So that's, very, very important. I'd like to see a return to 91, but we either support them fully militarily and stop messing about and interfering with our obstructionists and our doomsayers who are, they're going to nuke everything. No, they're not. All the reasons that the West has been so tepid and reluctant and one step forward, two steps back and dithering, that needs to stop. We either support them 100%, or the other alternative is what the alternative that the people like the MAGA crowd and what have you say, that not another dime to Ukraine. That won't stop the war. All that'll mean is that we sit on the sidelines and we watch a genocide.
Right. Well, and also I think the Europeans the Europeans wouldn't let that happen anyways, because it's more on their doorstep than it is on ours. And if the Republicans are successful in totally cutting off aid, the Europeans are going to backfill this, and we're going to find ways to financially help the Europeans through trade and other stuff. It is. It's clearly got.
But if we let's say that scenario plays out for whatever reason, the MAGA crowd somehow is so obstructionist, and we get to a place where, God forbid, this drags on and Trump gets back into office, which we both, are. I'm still I'm still with you. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
I'm willing to put money on it. But let's say, God forbid, that America absolutely does this crazy, that's it. They are forgetting, and this is again about Carlson saying that the two enemies in this war. No, two enemies are Ukraine and Russia, not America and Russia. America doesn't have the ability to force Ukraine to do shit.
Yeah,
they can influence.
Same thing with Israel. It's the same argument with Israel. People are like, we need to cut off Israel. Right. All you're going to do is make them go, all right, we're totally fucked, and we can't Iron Dome our way out of this. If the U.S. is going to back us up and give us more shit for the Iron Dome, that means our only choice is to wipe these motherfuckers out entirely. Literally. The more you back somebody in a corner, and this is the adult conversation you have to have about theaters of war, is that if you pull out of the entire thing, and this has always been the question about, how much intervention is too much and whether or not we should be there and all that kind of stuff. But there are periods where, and the Ukrainians are up against it, where if we just decided to get out right now and we're like, not another dime, if that idea won, the Ukrainians would go, okay, well then all the munitions that we have that we were holding back and not going to fly into Russian territory are all going to Belgorod and Crimea right now. We're just going to fuck the bridge and everything. We don't really have a choice, because it's that or die, and we're going to run out of shit anyway, so we're better to just blow everything up.
Yeah, and it's not like that. It's not like they would just lay down their weapons and be like, "Oh, if the Americans aren't backing us anymore, we might as well let the Russians just roll on in here, set up their junta, faux their kangaroo courts and round up our men and just start summarily executing people and sending people off to camps and all the rest of it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. No, man. The Ukrainians are going to, even if the conventional arms of the Ukrainian fighting forces, the armed forces of Ukraine, were completely depleted, we are at a point now where they're not going back. They have crossed a certain line. They're never going to bend the knee to Moscow again. There'll be a partisan war. There'll be an insurgency, assassinations, bombings. They're never going to. The Russians will have to do things that will be so horrific in the 21st century that this is where I do agree with you. This is where I think the Europeans would be like, oh no, we're not doing this again. Right. And they would. And that might also, by the way, as scary as this is, that also might mean then that like Polish troops, Polish tanks rolling in, and it's a NATO member state, and then what are the Baltics going to do? You know, they could take Kaliningrad back. I mean,
and they would.
Disengagement by America is not going to.
No, it'll push it to the edge. It'll push it to the edge even further. And again, I said, it's the same thing. Israel is surrounded by enemies at all sides. As balanced and as Jordan has been, it's still fought a war against them. You know, in the 60s, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt all were in a pact at one point to wipe Israel out entirely. So the day. The West leaves them to their own devices. They're a nuclear power. Honest to God, what other choice would they have at this point except to hit Tehran to protect themselves, just to stop that possible threat, and then use tactical nukes on everybody but Egypt and probably not Jordan, probably just Lebanon and Syria would get it. But that would be that. I mean, you want to zip right to a nuclear war as fast as possible. You take your hands off the wheel.
Yeah, disengagement by America. This is what bothers me so much about so much of the MAGA crowd. And look, I'm also, as much as I'm a San Francisco, I'm also a Michigander. So in Michigan. I'm in a county with a lot of those boys that are cosplaying on the weekends that they're going to be overthrowing the government. The thing that bothers me about these guys is that they would be terrible chess players because they only think about the next step. Like this blunt force thinking of like, if we just do this, then everything will be fine. No, but if you do that, then this, and then if that happens,
they're playing checkers. They're playing checkers using sushi on a sunny day. Like there's and you know exactly what I mean by that.
Interesting analogy, but it works. They're
just like, it's the more you touch it, the worse it gets, and it's not going to last that long to start with. You're up against the wall. This is like Russia's economy. Right now they've slipped to a war footing. They've moved to a war footing. All they're making right now is military shit, and their military factories are getting blown up. Like they're fucked. Meanwhile, let me show you something. This is, real quick. This is just the United States, real quick. Where we go here? Yeah, this one. U.S. Treasury's biggest ever 10-year auction garners solid demand. Remember how nobody wants our debt anymore? Nobody wants to invest in America anymore. We're a fading nation in decline, and nobody wants it. The biggest fucking sale of bonds in our history. $42 billion. And look at this. Young Americans' wealth grew 80% since 2019. There's a catch, which is that rent went up too. And if rent went down, a lot of them live at home because rent's so high. We fix this. This was funny. Haley lost the Nevada primary to none of these candidates as an option. That's pretty funny. But that was a protest by Trumpers to do that. And then there was, And this is the other one. For the first time in 2 decades, U.S. buys more from Mexico than from China. Officially, we crossed the import number. They are our biggest business partner. They've been our biggest business partner for almost 2 years now. Right. This is a bellwether for local economies. get ready to hear like Glenn Beck and a bunch of these fuckwads talking about the Amero as the euro of whatever, and they're full of shit. The dollar's doing just fine. Fucking Mexico would rather run on the dollar, just like most of South America at this point. And the Canadians are like, we like our geese on our coins, eh? So they're going to keep theirs, and they'd have no reason not to, because they got to.
And again, as long as we're switching to domestic politics as well, is that, you know, there's all these doomsayers that are saying, "Oh my God, Biden in his in the way he has responded to the war in Gaza and Israel has you know, alienated all the Arab communities around Detroit in Michigan," and that might very well be true. That is a strong voting bloc. As a Michigander, I know those areas.
Yeah,
you can get really good baba ganoush in Troy. But here's the other thing that people aren't talking about as much as they should. Michigan is a strong labor state.
Yes, it is.
Real strong labor state. Did you see the head of the automotive workers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and also, like, Trump literally hired
labor in Michigan.
Fucking
yes.
Trump hired scabs at a fake at a non-union shop. Like, nobody's gonna fucking check.
Michigan.
It was a press gathering. You think they're not gonna fuck? They're there to ask questions. If they can't. And then he didn't give interviews.
It's
amazing.
On labor. It is built on labor. It's you know, Motor City, baby. There are two things that Michiganders do. They have the lakes and the hunting and all the beautiful, you know, nature of Michigan, which is wonderful. And we build stuff.
Yeah.
And you build stuff with labor. I don't want to make a hard prediction, but I know how I'm casting my ballot, and I'll bet you everybody that I know in Michigan is either a sportsman who makes their money off of some form of, you know,
production,
something having to do with, you know,
manufacturing or support of that manufacturing.
Or manufacturing. And it's, you know, Trump has not got a good record with labor. So as bad as it is with the trouble that Biden might get from the Arab communities, you know, which, you know, hey, it's America. Everybody gets to voice. Everybody gets a ballot.
Every single and you know, again, this is anecdotal, and it always has to be because they're interviews. Every single interview I have seen with these folks that where they're interviewing. Have you really? Yeah. Oh yeah. I was gonna. You know, I'm a Democrat, but I'm gonna vote for Trump over Biden because I can't consciously. Every one of them were like, I voted for Bernie and I didn't vote in 2020. So fuck off.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying for a third time in a row, you're not going to contribute a vote to anything meaningful because you're all mouth and no heart. This is just dumb. And by the way, Trump will call Netanyahu on his first day in office and say, why haven't you flattened that fucking place? I want to break ground on a tower there in less than a year. Fuck him.
Yeah. Sure, of course.
He already did. Why do you think he moved the Golan Heights, recognized the Golan Heights? Why do you think he moved the fucking embassy to Jerusalem? Why do you think he recognized it as a thing? Because the idea is, you know, he's in with the Likud. He's in with the Netanyahus. He thinks there shouldn't be any of these motherfuckers in there. No question. Jesus Christ. He thinks you can turn their plan, it seems, is to turn the West Bank into a chunk of Jordan, like split Jordan and Israel will split half of it. All those Palestinians will become Jordanians like they did before, because most of them are Egyptian, Jordanian, or Arabs that have, you know, moved there over time. The Gazans were all Egyptians. The only reason they're like Jordanian and Lebanese, quote unquote, Palestinians in Gaza is because the PLO and the PA drove them out when they fucking murdered everybody in 2006. Then the fight with Fatah, Fatah was rising as the balancing power, and they're the ones who've had relative peace. All settler violence aside, in general, the West Bank has operated fairly well during this time. Gaza, they shoved all the awful. The West Bank, like Fatah and everybody in the West Bank, just took everybody who was a troublemaker and sent them to Gaza and said, okay, go fucking fill your boots.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan's gonna. I mean, the king is gonna have a real issue with a lot of that, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the Palestinian camps at Jordan are. I've driven past them.
They're awful.
I never went into them, but they're terrible. The Jordanians treat the Palestinians.
So do the Lebanese. You can get in the refugee.
They purposely keep them in a limbo status so that they can't really settle because ultimately they don't want them there. So they do these,
permanent refugee status. And that's what UNRWA provides them with, because UNRWA is supposed to transition you from being a refugee to either back home or someplace else. If your home was just destroyed and you were a Sudanese and it's now South Sudan, they either settle you as a South Sudanese citizen, or you fucking move back to Sudan, or they relocate you to Niger or one of the other places. But the UNRWA's this kind of like bubbling thing where they just keep them in refugee status forever. In the refugee camps in the West Bank, Palestinians in those places can get exit visas essentially to buy property in Israel or buy property in the West Bank and establish a home and all that kind of stuff. They can't in Lebanon, they can't in Jordan, and they can in Egypt. The refugee camps, or in Syria, I guess. I don't know if there's a camp there per se, but some of them go up there. None of them are allowed to. If you're a Palestinian, you stay in the refugee camp, and you don't get a day pass to go out of there, and you certainly don't get to buy property and move. The Israelis allow the Palestinians in those refugee camps to get a pass and become an Israeli citizen, effectively. It's like a work visa, and then you eventually transition over to that.
Yeah. And they don't make it easy, but
no,
ultimately you can do it. Yes.
Well, because because there's a chance you might kill a bunch of fucking people. So it's been going on for a long goddamn time, and people carry that grudge for so long that they're just hanging on to it. And it's going to be interesting when let's say we go back to the 91 borders, Ukraine and Russia. And everything just kind of like, all right, fuck it. And Russia tries to stabilize itself, and the rest of the world fights with it, paying money to Ukraine to rebuild it and all that shit. There's going to be some Russians that are with a target on their back, because there's going to be Ukrainians with a chip on their fucking shoulder for 2 goddamn decades.
Right.
And it's going to be a real border disputes that really rise up from just people seeing each other and going, oh, that fucker. And then, because the Russians rotate a soldier that was guilty of some awful shit that didn't manage to die. They put him on guard duty at one of the places. And
I saw an article. I saw an article today that the SBU, the Ukrainian intelligence, openly said to a paper here, we've got assassination squads inside Russia.
Yeah,
we are hunting down traitors who are giving information to the Russians. We will hunt them down. We will find them in whatever little town or village they've run off to in Siberia.
Right,
and we'll knock them out. We'll take them out. I mean, it's a pretty brutal thing to say and do, but
it's a war.
You decide to defect
active war
to your enemy and then contribute to your enemy's military activity internally back in their home country. Fair game.
Yeah.
It's like those guys after the Second World War, the Mossad guys that would go around and hunt these the
Nazis. Right. Absolutely.
It's absolutely going to be Ukrainian, Russian hunters.
Right.
After this war, they exist right now, so why not after the war?
Well,
But sorry, you were going to make a point. Yeah, no,
that's
we
okay.
kind of
we're
over.
We're at the end of the hour, and I appreciate you being here, brother. And I'm sorry it was a rough day, and it will get better. I promise.
Yeah, it's just it will. It will. It's just we're gonna have good days and we're gonna have bad, and I think we're gonna be into a season of more bad days.
The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come.
I remember when she was when she was, Newsom's wife in San Francisco.
I met her.
Look how far she's come.
I wouldn't recognize her. Honest to God, I swear to God, now when she started dating Don Jr., I realized, I know I met her when she was with Gavin Newsom, because I marched with him and had meetings with him, back in the day about gay marriage and all that kind of stuff. And I know she was there, but she looks so fucking weird now.
Very weird. But anyhow, I look, there are going to be some tough days ahead. There's no doubt about it.
That's right.
I'm frustrated. I'm angry because the Ukrainians are too gracious to be angry for. So I'm going to be angry for them.
Right.
We need to get our shit together. We really, and I'm optimistic. Being an American, as I say, we're going to do the right thing eventually. But while we fuck around, Ukrainians are dying every day, and that's I'm going to put that at the feet of MAGA and these morons who are making it damn near impossible to get an aid package through. Eventually we will. Biden will find his way around in the interim period. The Europeans are going to step up, but there's going to be a lot of Ukrainians who are going to die in the interim period until eventually we can get back on the, get the momentum back and get back on the offensive, which I have no doubt eventually we will do.
Agreed.
So, tough day today. More days of difficulty to come, but I know in my heart that ultimately Ukraine is going to be free and sovereign, and that we just keep the eyes on the prize, and we keep going in that direction, and we'll make it. We'll get there eventually. Because
agreed.
The Russians.
One of our chatters, Picker-Upper, says, "Don't give up hope, Phil. Lincoln Project has a great ad on the border. U.S. sparklers are here to support you." So thanks so much for that, you guys.
I know. It's all good.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
we'll make
guys.
it. Thank you so much, brother.
All right. You got to let yourself, when you're down, you can't fight it. You got to just kind of let it process.
I agree.
So,
absolutely.
Better days ahead.
That's true. And I'll talk to you on Saturday.
You will indeed.
Okay.
All the best.
Everybody, check out his channel and follow him on all your socials, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, brother. Be well.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. This is there is a human cost that the maggots do not care about in Ukraine specifically. And I would argue that they actually are rooting against it, so they do care, but in the worst possible way. I will obviously I've decided, depending on how much attention to give something in particular, but I will see if I'm going to watch the Tucker Carlson interview and pull pieces from it, or just cover it like I cover stuff, just so we can go through it and break it down or whatever. But I think I don't see it being anything that's particularly funny in that regard, but I'll grab pieces of it. If I do see a red flag about the kind of story point or propaganda piece that I was talking about with Phil, I will try and capture that and show you what I meant. Yes, Boston Brian, we do need to watch it, you and I and all people who we do, but not everybody else. So there you go. Anyways, much love. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go collapse because I was driving all night and it was a lot. It was very much a lot. I will say, however, though, that it was pretty friggin' great last night. That was an awesome time. It was nice to have a bunch of songs that I know from muscle memory. So yeah, it was good. So yeah, it was so I didn't have to worry about learning lyrics and that kind of stuff because I know all these, and so I got to do, anyways, but it'll turn into a Midwestern goodbye. This is my Joe Biden. Anyway, I'm serious, folks. I'm not joking. Serious. I love you guys. I'll see you later. I'll be on this afternoon. Don't worry. Don't forget to hit that like on your way out.
Cash. Green cash.
No, they can just like the stream or like the stairs, subscribe, that kind of stuff. The stuff that's free. I'm not always in it
cash.
for the
Green cash.
Dude, shut up. You sound like an asshole. I know, that's what I would say.
Purge the anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism. What you're doing? PP2.
Love you, Boston Brian. Have a great day, brother. Talk soon. Thank you guys so much. I gotta go pass out. Good Lord.
I like fighting number 2.
Oh yeah, that's normal.
I think people saw that loud and clear. We're going to be a country no more. I actually think it will be a country no more.